Welcome to the inaugural episode of our series on Ocean Networks Canada called Surfacing Secrets, Explore the Ocean, Understand the Planet. Today we're talking about the Mavericks of the Deep, the epic origins of Ocean Networks Canada. I'm your host, Lyne Morissette, and today we'll journey back into the late 1990s, a time where a group of visionary scientists dared to dream of real-time seafloor observatories. In this episode, we'll explore how curiosity transformed into purpose, paving the way for groundbreaking innovations that help us explore the ocean and understand the planet. Today, we'll be hearing from three extraordinary pioneers who were interviewed by my podcast collaborator Andrew Lewin from How to Protect the Ocean podcast. We'll hear excerpts from his conversations with Kate Moran, President and CEO of ONC, whose career as an ocean engineer and oceanographer has been dedicated to unlocking the secrets of the deep.
Who decided that we needed to put sensors in the ocean so we could understand it in real time. And for those who don't know, it's harder to put sensors in the ocean than in space.
John Delaney, an oceanographer whose early ideas about cabled observatories still resonate today.
Let's just turn the whole thing into a laboratory.
And Benoit Pirenne, Ocean Networks Canada's Corporate Innovation and Technology Officer, whose expertise in building digital and physical infrastructures has been critical to ONC's evolution.
Now I've been with Ocean Networks Canada and helping build the Neptune Observatory system and its data management since 2004.
This episode is the first in a series dedicated to exploring ONC's history, its current innovations, and the exciting possibilities for the future. So let's begin our journey deep into the heart of ocean exploration. The late 1990s, a time where the possibilities of real-time data from ocean floor were nothing more than a daring idea. In lab and aboard research vessels, Maverick scientists were rethinking what it means to explore the deep. They imagined an underwater network, a system of cable observatories that could bring the mysteries of the seafloor into the light of day in real time. Here's the University of Washington's John Delaney discussing how it all started.
I had also lived in the Galapagos for 6 months back in 70 and 72, inside the volcanoes. That's when I first got whet my appetite, so to speak, for volcanoes. But I had started a program within the United States that was called the RIDGE program, RIDGE, which is Ridge Interdisciplinary Global Experiments, with a bunch of colleagues. And the goal was to study submarine hydrothermal systems and the active volcanic systems that supported them. I guess somewhere in the vicinity of 1991, I was at the American Geophysical Union meeting in San Francisco, and sitting in a bar with a guy named Alan Chave, who was part of this program, and I was complaining about how hard it is to be in the submarine and look out the window, which is 3 or 4 inches thick and about as big around as that, and not be able to touch the rocks, because I'm a field geologist. I was used to reaching, and you can see it, but you can't touch it.
Yeah.
Because, the first time around, my first dives were in 4,000 meters.
Wow.
Water on the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. And so I was complaining to him, and he said, well, there's something new going on at Bell Labs, and it's called fiber optic cables. And we have recently laid a cable across the Atlantic, which I think was called TAT-8. Do you know? Yeah, TAT-8. And he said, now they're getting rid of some of the old cables. Maybe we could pick one up and do something with it. And that was the beginning of the idea from my point of view.
John's vision was born during a time when technological advances, fiber optics, improved sensored systems, and digital data management were converging. In support of these early groundbreaking moments, here are some more of his stories that remind us of those pioneering days.
We were close to the Juan de Fuca tectonic plate, but not very many people had been out there. So we proposals to go out and literally dredge with basically a gigantic chain bag. We dragged along the seafloor and picked up rocks. And one of the rocks we picked up was in the Endeavour segment of the Juan de Fuca Ridge, but it had tube worms in it. It was not lava. It was a chunk of sulfide. It was about something like 85 pounds actually came out.
Wow.
These bold steps set the stage for what would later become Ocean Networks Canada, a network now spanning in the Pacific, the Arctic, the Atlantic, and even reaching Antarctica. With audacious ideas and a bold new approach, the early pioneers were not only exploring the unknown, they were revolutionizing our view of the ocean.
Ocean Networks Canada was founded by 3 Mavericks in oceanography who decided that we needed to put sensors in the ocean so we could understand it in real time. Prior to Ocean Networks Canada, data was collected on ships, here and there, one point at one time, and then the next day the ocean changes. So we couldn't get an understanding of the full picture of the ocean without these sensor systems in situ in the ocean. And that's why it was started. That was the motivation for understanding the ocean fully. So that started the work of designing, engaging the science community to decide on sites, where should the nodes go. Of course, John's dream came true when the Endeavour segment of the Juan de Fuca Ridge was part of the build for the Neptune Canada Observatory, and then Verena was also in her maverick way. Testing the technology by building in 2006 through somewhat separate funding, a smaller version of Neptune called Venus, and installing the first cable in Saanich Inlet in 2006, and basically demonstrating the concept that John thought of quite a number of years earlier. And then Venus expanded in 2008 into the Southern Sailor Sea. Some people call it the Strait of Georgia. And then at the end of 2009, when John's team finally got their money, Neptune was turned on. I called John Delaney a maverick, and the 2 people that were here mavericks, Verena Tunnicliffe and Chris Barnes.
As the new millennium approached, the spark of innovation evolved into a full-fledged mission. The early days of scientific curiosity gave way to a purpose-driven organization, one dedicated not only to discovery, but also to protecting coastal communities and advancing our understanding of the planet. Here's ONC's Benoit Pirenne explaining how he got involved in this.
Well, my degree was in computer science, but I had always had a very strong interest in the sciences, and decided that I wanted to continue to support science. And I was lucky enough to find a job with a large international organization in Europe that was meant to deliver telescopes to the astronomical community in the world. And so after a co-op term there, they decided to hire me, which was great. And I started to eventually, long story short, build a data management system for, on the one hand, the Hubble Space Telescope copy in Europe, and then continuing on to building the local data archive for the European Southern Observatory, which was my employer. And then after a number of years, the family needed to change. I had essentially applied to positions here, a place that I already knew through my connections in astronomy. And I guess fate had it that I had 2 job offers here in Victoria in 2004, one of which was to either join the local observatory, which was good, and the other one was to join the University of Victoria to start building the data management for this new nascent observatory that was going to be called Neptune. And, you still like to join things that are new and start from scratch. So this is what I decided to do. The rest is history.
Let's now hear from Kate, whose journey embodies that transformation. Listen as she explains how the so-called ocean mavericks transformed a bold idea into a mission with far-reaching impact.
I actually grew up in eastern Pennsylvania, but went and took an engineering degree at the University of Pittsburgh. And I did that because of the fact that it was the beginning of Earth Day and when I was in high school. And I was applying for university, and my physics teacher, whose name I will always remember, was Mr. Missile. Perfect. He said I should go into engineering, and I didn't know what that was. So it was in the days when you wrote and got the catalogs, and the University of Pittsburgh actually had environmental engineering as part of their curriculum. So I applied there and was accepted. So I was really interested in the earth at that time in terms of, a clean earth and all that kind of thing. And then when I graduated, I took a job working in environmental cleanup for a big company that made toilet paper. And it made me crazy. So I quit, and I took advice from another professor at Pittsburgh to go to graduate school in ocean engineering in Rhode Island. And I went to sea for the first time in January of the first year I was there in the North Atlantic, and got terribly seasick, but fell in love with it.
Kate Moran's early career was marked by her passion for the ocean, fueled both by a deep concern for the environment and by early experiences at sea that changed her view of the world. Even as a young girl, in her hometown, a moment of crisis, Hurricane Agnes, forged Kate into a gripping understanding of the importance of her future work.
Good evening. If you are under 30, you have never seen a flood like this. President Richard Nixon has declared the entire state of Pennsylvania a major disaster area, along with Florida, Maryland, Virginia, and New York. Governor Schaaf, meantime, is estimating damages at more than $1 billion. The governor requested aid after a helicopter tour of flood-ravaged areas where the death toll now is approaching 30. Speaking at a news conference,
Kate was 17 when Hurricane Agnes swept through her hometown of 44th, Pennsylvania in June 1972. The storm flooded the family home and destroyed all their possession. It was a life-changing event for her, she says. Many people were displaced for a long time, and the damage ran into billions of dollars. It was then that she realized the importance of government aid for reconstruction, as well as warning and alert system for natural disasters. At the time, she explains, there was virtually none of this. Later, Kate was called in as an expert by Barack Obama's administration to try to manage and, above all, understand the impact of the now famous Deepwater Horizon accident.
On April 20th, an explosion ripped through BP Deepwater Horizon drilling rig, about 40 miles off the coast of Louisiana. 11 workers lost their lives. 17 others were injured. And soon, nearly a mile beneath the surface of the ocean, oil began spewing into the water. Already, this oil spill is the worst environmental disaster America has ever faced. And unlike an earthquake or a hurricane, it's not a single event that does its damage in a matter of minutes or days. The millions of gallons of oil that have spilled into the Gulf of Mexico are more like an epidemic, one that we will be fighting for months and even years. But make no mistake, we will fight this spill with everything we've got for as long as it takes. We will make BP pay for the damage their company has caused. And we will do whatever is necessary to help the Gulf Coast and its people recover from this tragedy.
Well, I was working as an assistant director in the Office of Science and Technology Policy, which is part of the Executive Office of the President of the United States, and the President at the time was Obama. And I heard about it on the news. It was really the blowout and explosion was on the news. And then the train wreck that was going on somewhat slowly over a few days started to accelerate when the actual rig sank 2 days later on, ironically, Earth Day. So it was towards the end of that week when our office started to become engaged. And the way this office works is my portfolios were Arctic, polar and Arctic, and the ocean. But we're all hands on deck during crises in that office to provide as much guidance through the president's science advisor to the president. I had experience in ocean drilling, so one of the paragraphs I sent up was one that said the second attempt that BP was trying to shut down the well was going to fail because of formation of hydrates, and everyone took notice. And so I became part of, at the time, was a team led by Secretary of Energy 2. As an 8-person team. Our team was formed to provide advice and guidance to the incident commander, the head of the Coast Guard, on what they could or couldn't do with BP to shut down the well. And this was very interesting because it was really the president, John Holborn, who was a science advisor at the time, told me that it was in the Oval Office when the president instructed Thad Allen, incident commander, that he should not make any decisions about how to technically shut down the well without talking to Nobel laureate physicist Stephen Chu. So that's how it all began. And the reality of it hit me when I realized I was doing my ocean work. I was in a tea shop near the White House, and my BlackBerry rang and said, "You got to come to the Situation Room." And that's when it all became, yes, all hands on deck. And I became intimately involved with that part of the work, which was trying to stop the flow of oil across a whole bunch of aspects of it, stopping the well, which was very unusual. This was new and different. This wasn't like a normal oil spill. So there was this whole piece of technology, and that's why the president got Stephen Chu involved. It's that there's this piece. It's not just normal Coast Guard overseeing the cleanup of a tanker or something like that.
These personal touches remind us that ONC's mission is not solely academic. It's about ensuring safety and protecting communities, a commitment that has defined every step of this journey.
In addition to supporting research, so let's make sure that's our foundation, we then support other priorities of the government that we can do. So then we become what we're now calling major research facilities. We start to become basically an integrated national major research facility across the country. So if each of us does that, then we'll be supporting the nation's goals. Connecting the research community scientists with policymakers is the magic.
Yeah.
That's how we innovate. That's how so when policymakers want to get from here to there and they understand there's a solution over here, they can actually accelerate that. At the same time, the research community can actually communicate directly with the policymakers about what are the roadblocks for you? How can we ensure that you can stay on the innovation train?
A cornerstone of ONC's success has been its commitment to data. The observatories were not only designed as feats of engineering, but also as a vital tool for capturing continuous, long-series data that is revolutionizing our understanding of the ocean. Benoit Pirenne explains how real-time open data has reshaped scientific discovery.
So no, I think there was a big decision from the get-go that all the data would be available right away to anyone who wanted them. And because we have a cable that connects the instruments to shore, we could do that.
Benoit also highlights the cultural shift that came with making data openly available. The old ways of hoarding data were replaced by a modern, community-driven approach, one that has unlocked new avenues for research and innovation.
There was a culture shock whereby people who were interested in building these facilities, like Verena Tunnicliffe and her people, and Chris Barnes and the people he hired at the time, they were so focused on the hardware aspects because that's what's visible, that's what people are excited about, that's what's not been done before. And so convincing people like Verena and Chris that these proposals for funding needed a significant dedication to the manpower that would lead the data side, that was a bit of a challenge. Eventually, thanks to the good understanding of Kate of the importance of that, we got the resources. And today, we'll talk about that later probably, but today, a third of the staff of Ocean Networks Canada is dedicated to data. And so I think this shows the importance of it. But it's also, when it came to the ocean, until basically 10, 20 years ago now, the modus operandi for researchers was that they were going to see, they were going to take their equipments and their grad students with them. They were going to be going only in the summer, because that's the only time that you could do anything in the Northern Hemisphere. They would collect your data, maybe transfer the data in a computer, put it in a drawer until you have time to look at it. And this culture was prevailing still at the time.
These insights remind us that the legacy of ONC isn't just in the hardware of seafloor observatories. It's in the continuous flow of data that informs critical decisions worldwide. Whether it's events like the Deepwater Horizon or the first scientific drilling in the Arctic, real-time data has become an essential tool in understanding our changing environment. Looking ahead, the pioneering spirit of those early Mavericks continues to fuel innovation at Ocean Networks Canada. Our observatories are evolving, and new projects are on the horizon. From advanced fiber sensing techniques that promise to map seismic and temperature changes along hundreds of kilometers of cable, to the deployment of coastal observatories in remote areas like Antarctica. Kate Moran shares our vision for the future, a future where ocean data empowers communities and shapes global climate solutions.
And Ocean Networks Canada really is an ocean data and technology powerhouse. We install high-tech sensors. We're now operating over 12,000 of those sensors that deliver data in real time, and it's available over the internet to anyone in the world. And so we deliver this incredible technology with this team of engineers, scientists, technicians, data people, GIS people who work together to make that happen. And for those who don't know, it's harder to put sensors in the ocean than in space. We operate major ocean infrastructure, really based on sensors that observe the ocean and observe everything in the ocean. Some people think about only whales and water. We monitor whales and water, but we also monitor the chemistry, the physics. We even monitor neutrinos from the universe. So we monitor everything that's possible in the ocean, including things that are hazards like tsunamis and earthquakes. So this wide range of data that we capture for a wide range of purposes that are for scientific research, for public benefit, for decision makers. And also we are there to help industry to grow the sustainable blue economy.
In a constant quest for innovation, Benoit presents the next stage in our technological evolution. He explains how, thanks to advances in fiber optic sensing, the future holds the promise of instruments capable of continuously measuring very fine variation, be they vibrations, temperature fluctuations, and much more. Let's hear him describe this revolutionary process, which illustrates how research and industry are working together to push back the boundaries of our understanding of the ocean.
Well, as I said before, there's always something new coming up, and it's not coming from us. It's coming from the community of researchers who build new types of instruments. It's coming from industry who invents new methods to collect data. Mm-hmm. And this is all very exciting. And so to me, what's going to be coming out for us in the next year to 5 years is those new instruments that have a relationship with what is commonly called fiber sensing. Basically, you take a fiber optic and you shine a laser light very frequently, like hundreds of times per second, and in between the shots of light, you look at the backscatter. You look at the reflections of this particular flash of light at every point along the fiber because of the impurities on the glass of the fiber. You are going to have these reflections, and if you observe this like a lot of times, 100 times per second, you can start building a concept of changes that occur in the fiber at a very fine resolution, meaning not only spatial resolution along the fiber length, which could be up to 100 kilometers, but also sense very precisely the changes that occur to the fiber from when it's subjected to strain, stresses, temperature changes, and all that. So essentially, by continuously observing that and collecting this humongous amount of data, you can start mapping out along the fiber the changes that occur due to vibration, be they seismic or acoustic, or you can get a sense of the temperature fluctuations over time, and you get this information multiple times per second at every meter along that fiber. So you can imagine the data volume that will come out of it.
Yeah.
It's going to be orders of magnitude more than whatever we're dealing with today. And again, back to the culture clash with the community, they have to learn quickly now, not only to deal with data 365 days a year, which is what observatories like Neptune and Venus and others put them in front of. They're going to have to deal with a lot more data now. Mm-hmm. And we're going to have to provide the community with, we're going to have to help them dealing with the data volume by providing new tools. And so this is this continuous struggle, as it were, that not only we have to make people understand that there's data coming in continuously, it's going to be too much for anyone to work on. So we need to help them with new techniques such as data visualization systems, and more recently, again, these artificial intelligence / machine learning systems that in principle should be able to help people detect what's in there and tell them what it is.
John adds that continuous innovation is not just a necessity, it's the very essence of our mission. He highlights new smart cable initiative, as well as the growing role of artificial intelligence and machine learning in analyzing the immense stream of data generated every day.
So I had a workshop in 2015 in third week of April, in which I brought together close to 100 people, and many of them Canadians, Rick Thompson being one. And we talked about, well, what's going to happen? We have this fiber optic cable out to this active volcano. What's going to happen when it erupts? Wouldn't it be cool if we were there and had instruments and planned ahead? And we ended the workshop and people went home, and the following day, the volcano erupted. It took us 3 or 4 months to actually get out there to document what was going on, but we had real-time seismic information.
Together, their insight paint a picture of a future where our understanding of the ocean is as dynamic as the ocean itself. A future where cutting-edge technology and a deep respect for our environment work hand in hand to keep our coastal community safe and informed. From its maverick beginnings in the late 1990s to today's state-of-the-art observatories, Ocean Networks Canada has been driven by a spirit of adventure and discovery. Our journey, from bold ideas to transformative legacy, is a testament to the power of real-time data and the ingenuity of those who dared to imagine the impossible.
Connecting the research community scientists with policymakers is the magic. That's how we innovate.
We are in a situation now where we actually have the capacity to be present with autonomous underwater self-driving vehicles that can inspect what's happening in real time and send the data back on a daily basis.
That was definitely a challenge, but I was ready for it. But in the end, I'm still very happy and proud of all the accomplishments that I made both in my previous career and now, of course, still with Ocean Networks Canada.
Took a job in oceanography. Dawned on me that, well, perhaps I should go to sea. But I loved it and had gone to sea on this one cruise in 1978. I never looked back. I never went back into a laboratory. I was better on the fantail shoveling rocks than I was twirling the dials on a secondary ion mass spectrometer.
The reward of having done that is such that we're considered, as an example, best practices when it comes to managing data in science and particularly in the oceans.
Hydrothermal vent field, which I spent a large fraction of my life studying. I dream about it. True. It's really weird. If you've never had submarine hydrothermal system dreams, you've missed something.
This is our first episode in the series Surfacing Secrets, Explore the Ocean, Understand the Planet, exploring ONC's past, present, and future. We invite you to continue this journey with us, to explore the depth of the ocean and understand our planet in new and exciting ways. As we draw our journey to a close, I'd like to share a poignant moment from our conversation with John Delaney. In his own words, and inspired by the timeless verses of T.S. Eliot, John left us with a poem that encapsulates the spirit of relentless exploration, the very spirit that continues to drive Ocean Networks Canada. Listen closely.
We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. Arrive through the unknown remembered gate, where the last of earth left to discover is that which was the beginning. At the source of the longest river, the voice of a hidden waterfall, not known because not looked for, but heard, half heard, between two waves of the sea.
As we come to the end of today's journey, I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to our three incredible guests, Kate Moran, John Delaney, and Benoit Pirenne, for sharing their invaluable insights and inspiring stories with us. Your passion and vision illuminate the very spirit of exploration that drives Ocean Networks Canada. Special thanks to Tommy Goupil for editing and directing this episode, and to Andrew Lewin of the How to Protect the Ocean podcast. And by the way, if you'd like to hear all the interviews with our three fascinating guests, I invite you to check out his podcast. All the episodes you'll hear during this special series will be offered as a duo. The full interview with Andrew and a narrative episode with excerpts from these interviews here on Balad'EAU. This podcast is produced by Balad'EAU with the generous support of Ocean Networks Canada. ONC is one of Canada's major research facilities and is an initiative of the University of Victoria. ONC is primarily funded through the Canada Foundation for Innovation and by Fisheries and Oceans Canada. So, if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, visit our website, and follow us on social networks so you don't miss a thing. Your support allows us to continue sharing these incredible stories of scientific discovery and human ingenuity. You'll find all the links in the episode description. You'll also find all the information you need to visit, discover, and follow Ocean Networks Canada, their educational content, news of their latest missions. They even have real-time cameras of their observatories. It's really a goldmine of discovery practically every day. I'm your host, Lyne Morissette. Thank you for listening, and until next time, keep exploring.